Today marks 100 days since the start of anti-government protests in Hong Kong. Let's take a look at the key events that have unfolded over the past 3 months. The first major rally that kick-started the wave of protests was on the 9th of June. This was sparked by a proposed extradition bill. Organizers estimated 1 million people joined the march. As the government refused to shelve the bill, more people mobilized on the streets. This forced Chief Executive Carrie Lam into promising to indefinitely suspend efforts to pass the legislation. But that didn't quell the unrest. 16th of June, another massive demonstration made headlines across the world. Organizers say 2 million people took to the streets. The protests took a destructive turn on the 1st of July. Activists stormed the Legislative Council, damaging the council chamber. 30 days in, Mrs. Lam announced the bill is dead and called for an end to protests. But activists persisted with their demand for a complete withdrawal of the legislation. In the following weeks, Hong Kong was rocked by escalating violence. On the 21st of July, protesters vandalized Beijing's liaison office, defacing China's national emblem. That very night, suspected gang members attacked protesters and bystanders at Yuen Long MTR station. Beijing could no longer ignore the chaos across the border. For the first time since the 1997 handover, the State Council's Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office held a rare news conference. They condemned protesters and expressed full support for the police force and Mrs. Lam's administration. Activists then took their protest to visitors at Hong Kong International Airport, one of the world's busiest transport hubs. But what started as a peaceful sit-in turned into mayhem. Protesters detained a traveler and a journalist from mainland China in the departure hall. Clashes ensued as officers tried to escort the hostages out. At one point, an officer pointed his gun after activists stole his baton and attacked him. Beijing then began to flex its muscles, sending warnings to demonstrators. Hundreds of people's armed police were spotted conducting exercises in Shenzhen. Changing tactics, demonstrators decided to give peace a shot. But that didn't last. It was another weekend of chaos on the 25th of August. For the first time, police fired a live gunshot into the air after hundreds of protesters attacked them. With each week, demonstrations spiraled out of control. On the 31st of August, video from local broadcaster TVB showed police storming Prince Edward MTR station, hitting people with batons and shooting pepper spray after a night of skirmishes. Protesters became more destructive, damaging facilities at MTR stations. In a surprising turn of events, Mrs. Lam then offered an olive branch, announcing the formal withdrawal of the controversial extradition bill. But protesters said her gesture came too little, too late. They vowed to continue with their actions until the government gives in to all of their demands. And that brings us to today, 100 days in and no end in sight to the unrest. It remains to be seen if Beijing will step in. Upcoming celebrations for the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China could very well add fuel to the fire.